my friends. A television preacher once said, "I wake up every morning thinking that this may be the day when Christ will come again." Well, to be honest, that has not been my experience. Seldom, if ever, do I wake up in the morning expecting Christ to return to earth. I guess to admit that from a Christian pulpit is really bad form. But if I'm going to preach the gospel, I've got to be honest. The truth is that many of us do not live in anticipation of the return of Christ today. Now, that is not necessarily the nature of our spiritual journey. For many of us, it is no less difficult to experience the abiding presence of Christ. I know He has promised never ever to leave us. While I believe that, and while you believe that, I know that there are times in our lives when God seems far removed from us in our little world. Now, these experiences are really nothing new. In today's gospel reading, Jesus told his disciples a parable about a man going on a long journey. While away, his servants were in charge of the estate. They were expected to care for things as if the master were there. And one day, the master would return, unannounced and unexpected. So the only way to be ready for the Lord's return is to get ready and to stay ready. The point of the parable is crystal clear. For one thing, it recognizes that we do not always live in constant awareness of the abiding presence of God. Jesus told his friends to expect this. Many days, God will be like that master on the long journey. We will look for God and fail to see him. We will call to God and fail to hear his voice. We will wait until waiting for him seems pointless. We will wonder sometimes if God has truly abandoned us. That picture may seem bleak, but for many people, perhaps for most of us, that really is the reality in life. Now, don't get me wrong. We believe in God. We pray earnestly for God, and we do our best to lead Christian lives. Even so, God at times, perhaps many times, seems far removed from us. And sometimes we're not even aware that God is present with us. Perhaps we are too busy about other things to realize his abiding presence. You know, the servants in the parable must have felt that same way. They could not spend every minute of every day wondering when the master would return. They had chores to do, floors to sweep, dishes to wash, crops to gather, and fields to plow. Contemplation would have to wait to the Sabbath. In the meantime, there was work to do. If we think about it, our lives are exactly the same way. Students have work to do. Teachers have lessons to plan. Business people have deals to close. Homemakers have meals to cook and houses to clean. That's the very nature of our ordinary, everyday lives. I guess the question is this: how does Christ expect us to live in these ordinary times? I would propose that the first thing he expects of us is to do our work, whatever our work. to do it and to do it well. I think the other thing he expects of us is to be good to each other. You know, the parable puts particular emphasis on this. One of the servants in the parable was abusing the others. When the master returned, that servant, we are told, was severely beaten. Strong words coming from Jesus. I think he wanted us to know that he was serious about how we treat one another. So, how exactly do we treat one another? How do we do that? Help with the ordinary business of ordinary living in ordinary times. Help pay a bill. Keep a baby so the mother can have an afternoon off. Visit a shut-in. Give someone a ride to the doctor. We are not talking heroic stuff here. We are talking about great living in ordinary times. And simple examples, as I just mentioned, is exactly what that means. Be on guard, therefore. The Son of God will come when we least expect him. And the best way to be ready is by doing the ordinary things, faithful and well.